Maya Jenkins stared at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, her fingers tracing the faded bruise on her cheek. 23 years old, and she felt like she had lived 100 lifetimes of pain. The small apartment she called home was falling apart, much like everything else in her life. Water stains decorated the ceiling like abstract art, and the heater had stopped working 3 weeks ago. She pulled her worn jacket tighter around her shoulders and grabbed the newspaper from the kitchen counter. The job listings were getting thinner each day, and her savings account had exactly $47 left. Her landlord had already threatened eviction twice this month, and Maya knew she was running out of options. The sound of her phone buzzing made her jump. It was her sister Rebecca, probably calling to remind her about their mother's birthday dinner next week. Maya let it go to voicemail. She couldn't face another family gathering where everyone would ask about her job, her love life, her future plans. The truth was, she had none. Growing up, Maya had always been the forgotten middle child. Rebecca was the successful lawyer with the perfect husband and beautiful house. Her younger brother David was the college graduate with a promising career in tech. Maya was just there. Average grades, average looks, average everything. Her parents had stopped expecting much from her years ago, and, eventually, she had stopped expecting much from herself. The job interview that morning had gone terribly. The interviewer, a stern woman in her 50s, had looked at Maya's resume with barely concealed disappointment. 2 years of college before dropping out, a series of part-time jobs that never lasted more than 6 months, and a 3-month gap in employment that Maya couldn't explain without revealing the truth about her last relationship. "Why should we hire you?" the woman had asked. Maya had stumbled through an answer about being hard-working and reliable, but even she didn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. How could she convince someone else to believe in her when she didn't believe in herself? Walking home from the interview, Maya had passed by the community center where she used to volunteer. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly coordinator, had waved at her through the window. Maya had quickly looked away, embarrassed by her current state. She had loved working with the children there, helping them with their homework and organizing art projects. But that was before everything fell apart, before she realized she was just pretending to be someone she wasn't. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her ex-boyfriend Marcus. "You left some stuff here. Come get it or I'm throwing it away." The message made her stomach turn. Marcus had been the final confirmation of what she already suspected about herself. He had started out charming, telling her she was beautiful and special. But, slowly, his words had changed. He would point out her flaws, mock her dreams, and remind her how lucky she was that someone like him would date someone like her. "You're not smart enough for college," he had said when she mentioned going back to school. "You can't even keep a simple job. What makes you think you can handle real responsibility?" When she had finally found the courage to leave him after he pushed her into a wall during an argument, Marcus had laughed. "Good luck finding someone else who will put up with you," he had said. "You'll be back. You always come back because you know you can't do better." Maya shook her head, trying to push away the memories. She folded the newspaper and decided to walk to the diner on 5th Street. Maybe they were still looking for a waitress. It wasn't much, but it would be something. The diner was busy with the lunch crowd when she arrived. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air, and, for a moment, Maya felt a tiny spark of hope. She had always been good with people, at least she used to be before she started believing she wasn't good at anything. The manager, a heavy-set man with kind eyes, looked at her application with interest. "You have some waitressing experience," he noted. "When can you start?" "Right away," Maya said, trying to keep the desperation out of her voice. "Great. Can you come in tomorrow morning for training?" Maya nodded eagerly. As she walked home, she felt lighter than she had in months. It wasn't a career, but it was a start. Maybe she could slowly rebuild her life, one small step at a time. But her optimism faded when she reached her building and saw her landlord, Mr. Rodriguez, waiting by her door with an official-looking envelope. "Maya," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "I'm sorry, but I can't wait any longer. You have until the end of the week. The eviction notice felt heavy in her hands. Even with the new job, she wouldn't have enough for rent and security deposit on a new place. Maya's chest tightened as the familiar feeling of worthlessness crept back in. That night, she sat on her mattress on the floor, surrounded by the few possessions she owned. A box of books from her brief time in college, some clothes that had seen better days, and a small jewelry box her grandmother had given her before she died. Inside the jewelry box was the only thing of value she owned, a silver locket that had belonged to her great-grandmother. Maya opened the locket and stared at the tiny photograph inside. It showed a young woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, someone who looked like she believed in herself. Maya had often wondered what her great-grandmother would think of her now, of the person she had become. She picked up her phone and scrolled through job listings online, looking for anything that might help her situation. Most required experience she didn't have or skills she had never learned. Her finger stopped on one listing that seemed different from the rest: ranch hand needed. Room and board provided. No experience necessary. Must be willing to work hard and learn. Contact Tom Mitchell at Sunshine Valley Ranch. Maya stared at the listing for a long time. She had never been on a ranch, had never worked with animals, and knew nothing about farm work. But the words room and board provided jumped out at her like a lifeline. Before she could talk herself out of it, she composed a short email explaining her situation and expressing her willingness to work hard. She mentioned that she was reliable, honest, and desperate for a fresh start. Her finger hovered over the send button for several minutes before she finally pressed it. The next morning, Maya went to her training at the diner. The work was harder than she remembered, and her feet ached after just a few hours. But the other waitresses were kind, and the customers seemed to appreciate her efforts. For the first time in months, Maya felt like she might actually be good at something. During her lunch break, she checked her email and found a response from the ranch. Tom Mitchell had written back with a simple message: "Can you be here by Saturday? Address attached. Bring work clothes and a positive attitude. Everything else we can figure out." Maya read the message 3 times, hardly believing it. Someone was willing to give her a chance, sight unseen. She looked up the ranch online and found a simple website with pictures of rolling hills, horses, and a rustic farmhouse. Sunshine Valley Ranch was about 3 hours away, nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains. The photos showed a different world from the one she knew. Wide open spaces, clean air, and a sense of peace that Maya hadn't felt in years. She imagined herself there, working with her hands, learning new skills, maybe even finding some version of herself that she could respect. That evening, Maya gave her notice at the diner. The manager was disappointed but understanding when she explained about the ranch opportunity. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith," he said. "Good luck out there." She spent the next day packing her meager belongings and researching what she might need for ranch work. She bought a pair of work boots with her last $20 and borrowed some jeans from her neighbor. The excitement was mixed with terror. What if she was terrible at ranch work? What if Tom Mitchell took one look at her and realized he had made a mistake? Friday night, Maya sat in her empty apartment one last time. The eviction notice was still on her kitchen counter, but it no longer felt like a death sentence. Instead, it felt like the push she needed to finally take control of her life. She thought about calling her family to tell them about her plans, but decided against it. They would probably try to talk her out of it, remind her of all the ways she might fail. For once, Maya wanted to make a decision based on hope rather than fear. As she lay on her mattress that final night, Maya allowed herself to imagine a different future. Maybe she would learn to ride horses, or help deliver baby animals, or grow vegetables in a garden. Maybe she would discover that she was stronger than she thought, more capable than anyone had given her credit for. The morning sun streaming through her window felt different somehow, filled with possibility instead of dread. Maya packed her few belongings into 2 old suitcases and called a taxi to take her to the bus station. As the apartment building grew smaller in the rear window, she didn't look back. The bus ride to Sunshine Valley took 4 hours, winding through countryside that Maya had never seen before. Rolling hills replaced concrete buildings, and the sky seemed bigger and bluer than it ever had in the city. Other passengers got off at small towns along the way, until Maya was almost alone with her thoughts and her hopes. When the bus finally stopped in the small town of Cedar Creek, Maya felt her nerves return full force. This was really happening. She was about to start a completely new life in a place where no one knew her history, her failures, or her fears. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. A dusty pickup truck was waiting in the parking lot, just as Tom Mitchell had promised in his email. Maya approached the vehicle nervously, her suitcases feeling heavier with each step. This was it, the moment that would determine whether she was brave enough to change her life, or if she would retreat back to the safety of familiar failure. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked toward her uncertain but hopeful future. Maya approached the pickup truck with trembling hands, her suitcases suddenly feeling like they weighed 100 pounds each. A man stepped out of the driver's side, and she was surprised by his appearance. Tom Mitchell looked to be in his early 40s, with weathered hands and kind brown eyes that crinkled at the corners. His flannel shirt was worn but clean, and there was something immediately calming about his presence. "You must be Maya," he said, extending his hand with a warm smile. "I'm Tom. Ready for an adventure?" Maya shook his hand, noting how steady and strong his grip was. "I think so," she replied honestly. "Though I should warn you, I've never done anything like this before." Tom chuckled as he took her suitcases and loaded them into the truck bed. "That's what makes it an adventure. Hop in." The drive to the ranch took 20 minutes through winding country roads. Tom kept up a steady stream of conversation, pointing out landmarks and telling her about the area. His voice was soothing, with no trace of judgment or impatience when she admitted her complete lack of experience with ranch life. "The ranch has been in my family for 3 generations," he explained as they drove past fields dotted with cattle. "My grandfather built the main house in 1954, and my father expanded the operation. I took over about 10 years ago when Dad decided he wanted to spend more time fishing." "What made you decide to hire someone with no experience?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. Tom glanced at her thoughtfully. "Sometimes the best workers are the ones who come in without preconceived notions about how things should be done. They're willing to learn, and they don't have bad habits to unlearn. Your email was honest about your situation, and I respect that kind of honesty." Maya felt a flutter of something she hadn't experienced in a long time, the possibility that someone might actually see potential in her. When they crested a hill, Sunshine Valley Ranch spread out before them like something from a postcard. The main house was a sprawling log structure with a wraparound porch, surrounded by well-maintained outbuildings. Horses grazed in nearby pastures, and, in the distance, Maya could see cattle scattered across rolling hills. Mountains rose up on all sides, creating a sense of peaceful isolation from the rest of the world. "It's beautiful," Maya whispered, and she meant it. She had never seen anything like this outside of movies. "It's home," Tom said simply. "Has been my whole life. Sometimes I think about what it would be like to live somewhere else, but then I watch the sunrise over those mountains and remember why I stay." He parked the truck near the main house, and Maya noticed a woman about her own age sitting on the porch steps. She had curly red hair and freckles, and she jumped up as they approached. "This must be Maya," the woman said with genuine enthusiasm. "I'm Sarah, Tom's sister-in-law. I help out with the books and the vegetable garden." Maya shook Sarah's hand, immediately liking her open, friendly demeanor. "Nice to meet you." "Sarah runs the farmer's market stand in town on weekends," Tom explained. "She grows the best tomatoes in 3 counties. Sarah blushed at the compliment. "Tom exaggerates, but I do love my garden. Maybe you'd like to help out there sometime, Maya. It's good work, very peaceful." The idea of growing something appealed to Maya more than she expected. In the city, she had never had space for even a small houseplant. Tom showed Maya to her room, which was in a small guest house about 50 yards from the main building. It was simple but clean, with a comfortable bed, a small desk, and windows that looked out over the pastures. Maya had never had so much space to herself, or such a beautiful view. Bathrooms down the hall, Tom said. Kitchen's in the main house, and you're welcome to eat meals with us or cook for yourself, whatever you prefer. Sarah's a great cook, though, so I'd recommend at least trying her biscuits before you decide. Maya set her suitcases on the bed and looked around the room. It was more than she had dared to hope for, clean, quiet, and hers. Thank you, she said, and Tom seemed to understand that she meant more than just thanks for the room. Get settled in, he said. Tomorrow we'll start showing you the ropes. For now, just breathe and relax. You've had a long day. After Tom left, Maya unpacked her few belongings. The room seemed enormous compared to her cramped city apartment, and the silence was almost overwhelming. No traffic, no shouting neighbors, no sounds of the city that never slept. Just the gentle lowing of cattle in the distance and the rustle of wind through trees. She walked to the window and looked out at the vast expanse of land. The mountains were turning purple in the evening light, and stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Maya had never seen so many stars. In the city, light pollution blocked out all but the brightest ones. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Sarah stood outside with a plate covered by a checkered cloth. I thought you might be hungry, she said. Pot roast and vegetables, with some of Tom's famous cornbread. The smell that rose from the plate when Sarah uncovered it made Maya's mouth water. She couldn't remember the last time she had eaten a home-cooked meal. You don't have to bring me food, Maya said, though she was grateful for the kindness. I know I don't have to, Sarah replied with a smile. I want to. We're glad you're here, Maya. It'll be nice to have another woman around the place. As Maya ate the delicious meal, she reflected on how different this felt from anything she had experienced before. In her previous jobs, she had always felt like she was barely tolerated, constantly worried about making mistakes or not measuring up. Here, she sensed something different, a willingness to give her time to learn, to make mistakes, to grow. The next morning, Maya woke to the sound of roosters crowing and sunlight streaming through her windows. She had slept better than she had in months, deeply and peacefully in a way that seemed impossible given how dramatically her life had changed in just 24 hours. Tom was waiting for her outside the main house with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Morning, he said cheerfully. Ready for your first day of ranching? Maya accepted the coffee gratefully and followed Tom toward the barn. The morning air was crisp and clean, and she could see her breath in small puffs. The barn was larger than it had appeared from a distance, with stalls for about 20 horses and a large open area filled with hay bales and farm equipment. We'll start simple, Tom said. Feeding the horses, cleaning stalls, basic maintenance. Nothing too complicated until you get comfortable. He introduced Maya to the horses one by one, explaining their personalities and quirks. There was Thunder, an older gelding who was gentle but liked to steal hats. Starlight was a young mare who was still learning to trust humans. Copper was the ranch workhorse, steady and reliable, while Midnight was spirited and required an experienced hand. Don't be afraid of them, Tom advised as Maya hesitantly approached Thunder's stall. They can sense fear, but they can also sense kindness. You have kind eyes, Maya. They'll respond to that. Maya wasn't sure she believed him about having kind eyes. Marcus had told her many times that she looked weak and uncertain. But, when Thunder gently nuzzled her outstretched hand, she felt a spark of something like confidence. The work was harder than Maya had anticipated. Mucking out stalls was backbreaking labor, and carrying water buckets left her arms aching. But, there was something satisfying about the physical nature of the work, the clear sense of accomplishment when a task was completed. Tom was patient as he taught her how to properly distribute hay, how to check the horse's hooves for stones, and how to recognize signs of illness or injury. He never made her feel stupid for asking questions, and he praised her efforts even when she made mistakes. You're a natural, he said when Maya successfully calmed a skittish young colt who had been refusing to eat. That took me weeks to figure out when I was starting. Maya glowed at the praise. She couldn't remember the last time someone had called her a natural at anything. During lunch break, she sat with Tom and Sarah on the porch, eating sandwiches and watching the horses graze in the pasture. The conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from the weather to favorite books to dreams for the future. What made you want to leave the city? Sarah asked curiously. Maya hesitated, not sure how much to reveal about her past. I guess I felt stuck, she said finally. Like I was living someone else's idea of what my life should be, instead of figuring out what I actually wanted. Tom nodded thoughtfully. I understand that feeling. I went to college in Denver, studied business because my father thought it would help with the ranch. Hated every minute of it. Came back here and realized this was where I belonged all along. The afternoon brought new challenges as Tom taught Maya how to use some of the basic tools and showed her around the property. The ranch was bigger than she had realized, with several different pastures, a large vegetable garden, and a workshop where Tom repaired equipment. We're pretty self-sufficient here, he explained. Have to be, living this far from town. Sarah grows most of our vegetables, we raise our own beef, and I can fix just about anything that breaks. Maya watched him work on a broken gate latch, his hands sure and confident as he made the necessary repairs. There was something appealing about that level of self-reliance, the knowledge that you could take care of yourself and others without depending on systems that might fail you. As the day wore on, Maya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't for years. The work was demanding, but it was honest work with clear goals and measurable results. When she finished cleaning a stall, it was clean. When she fed a horse, it was fed. There was no ambiguity, no office politics, no wondering if she was doing things right. That evening, the three of them sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maya felt a contentment she had almost forgotten was possible. How was your first day? Tom asked. Tiring, Maya admitted. But, good. Really good. It gets easier, Sarah assured her. And, more rewarding. Wait until you see your first foal being born, or help deliver a calf. There's nothing like it. Maya tried to imagine herself confident enough to help with such important tasks. It seemed impossible, but then, again, this morning she couldn't have imagined successfully handling a nervous horse or completing a full day of ranch work. Tom, she said hesitantly, why did you really hire me? You could have found someone with experience, someone who knew what they were doing. Tom was quiet for a moment, looking out at the mountains. A few years ago, I went through a rough patch, he said finally. Lost someone important to me, questioned everything about my life and choices. I know what it's like to feel like you don't matter, like nothing you do makes a difference. Maya felt her chest tighten with recognition. My neighbor Jake gave me work when I needed it most, Tom continued. Didn't care that I was a mess, just put me to work and let me figure things out. Said sometimes people need a chance to prove to themselves what they're capable of. I figured maybe you needed the same kind of chance. Tears stung Maya's eyes, but for once they were tears of gratitude rather than despair. Someone had seen past her failures and insecurities to offer her exactly what she needed most, an opportunity to discover who she really was when she wasn't being told she wasn't good enough. That night, as Maya lay in her comfortable bed listening to the sounds of the ranch settling down for the night, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe she wasn't worthless after all. Maybe she was just someone who had never been given the right chance to shine. The stars outside her window seemed brighter than ever, and, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya fell asleep with a smile on her face. 3 weeks into her new life at Sunshine Valley Ranch, Maya woke up before her alarm clock for the first time in years. The early morning routine that had once felt impossible now came naturally, boots on, hair pulled back, ready to greet the horses who had become as familiar as old friends. The transformation hadn't happened overnight. The first week had been brutal. Every muscle in her body ached, her hands developed blisters that turned into calluses, and she fell into bed each night exhausted but strangely satisfied. Tom never pushed too hard, but he also never made excuses for her. When she struggled with a task, he showed her again patiently until she got it right. You're getting stronger, Sarah had observed one morning as Maya easily lifted a hay bale that would have defeated her 2 weeks earlier. Not just physically. You carry yourself differently now. Maya had looked in the mirror that evening and realized Sarah was right. The defeated slouch was gone, replaced by straighter shoulders and eyes that met her own reflection directly instead of darting away. This particular morning brought a new challenge. Tom had mentioned the night before that they would be moving cattle from the lower pasture to higher ground, and Maya would be helping for the first time. It's not complicated, he had assured her. The cattle know where they're going. We just guide them along and make sure none of them wander off. Maya had nodded confidently, but now, facing the reality of working with a herd of large animals, her old insecurities crept back in. What if she did something wrong? What if she spooked the cattle or made a mistake that caused problems for Tom? Tom seemed to sense her nervousness as they saddled their horses. Relax, he said gently. Copper here is an old pro at cattle work. He'll do most of the thinking for you. Mounting Copper felt natural now, though Maya still marveled at how foreign it had seemed just weeks ago. The horse responded to her touch with familiar ease, and she realized that somewhere along the way, she had stopped being afraid of these powerful animals and started trusting them. The cattle drive began slowly, with Tom and Maya positioning themselves on either side of the herd while Sarah took up the rear on her reliable mare, Buttercup. The cattle moved with lazy contentment, occasionally stopping to graze but generally heading in the right direction. Maya found herself falling into the rhythm of the work. When a young steer started to veer toward a fence line, she and Copper smoothly guided him back to the group. When an older cow decided to be stubborn, Maya waited patiently rather than forcing the issue, just as Tom had taught her. Well done, Tom called out as they successfully moved the last of the cattle through the gate to the upper pasture. You've got good instincts with them. The praise warmed Maya more than the morning sun. 6 months ago, she would have dismissed such compliments as politeness or pity. Now, she was beginning to believe them. As they rode back toward the barn, Maya reflected on how much her relationship with Tom had evolved. Initially, she had been terrified of disappointing him, of proving that his faith in her was misplaced. But, as the days passed, their working partnership had developed into something deeper, a genuine friendship built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Tom never talked down to her or made her feel like a burden. When she made mistakes, he treated them as learning opportunities rather than failures. When she succeeded, his pride in her accomplishments was evident and sincere. It was unlike any relationship she had experienced with an employer, or really with any man. Tom, she said as they unsaddled their horses, can I ask you something personal? Sure. That rough patch you mentioned when you hired me, what happened? Tom's hand stilled on Kappa's bridle, and, for a moment Maya thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. I was engaged to a woman named Jennifer. We had been together for 5 years, had plans to get married and take over the ranch together. She was a veterinarian, incredible with animals, and I thought she loved this life as much as I did. Maya waited, sensing there was more to the story. Turns out she was just waiting for me to come to my senses and leave the ranch behind. She wanted me to sell the property and move to the city, start a real business. When I told her I couldn't do that, she said I was choosing dirt and animals over her, and she left. I'm sorry, Maya said, and meant it. She couldn't imagine someone not seeing the value in what Tom had built here. For a while, I started to believe she was right, Tom continued. That I was wasting my life, that the ranch wasn't a real career but just an excuse to hide from the world. I let the place run down, stopped caring about anything. That's when Jake stepped in and helped me remember who I really was. Maya understood now why Tom had been willing to take a chance on her. He knew what it felt like to have someone you cared about tell you that your life wasn't good enough, that you weren't good enough. Jennifer was wrong, Maya said firmly. This place is incredible, and what you do here matters. The animals depend on you, the land is better for your care, and you're preserving something that's been in your family for generations. That's not hiding from the world, that's taking care of it. Tom smiled, and Maya realized it was the first time she had seen him look truly happy when talking about his ex-fiancée. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. That afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Maya was in the vegetable garden with Sarah, learning to identify which tomatoes were ready for picking, when a car pulled up the driveway. A woman in expensive clothes and high heels got out, looking distinctly out of place in the rural setting. That's Jennifer, Sarah whispered, her voice tense. Maya felt her stomach drop. The woman was beautiful in a polished, city way that made Maya suddenly conscious of her dirt-stained jeans and work-roughened hands. Tom emerged from the barn and walked toward the car, his expression carefully neutral. Maya tried not to eavesdrop, but voices carried in the clear mountain air. "You look good, Tom," Jennifer said. "Country life agrees with you." "What do you want, Jen?" "I've been thinking about us, about the mistakes I made. I was wrong to give you an ultimatum. Maybe we can find a compromise." Maya's chest tightened. Jennifer was everything Maya wasn't: sophisticated, educated, clearly successful. If Tom was interested in reconciling, where would that leave Maya? "There's no compromise to be found," Tom said firmly. "This is my life, and I'm happy with it. You made your choice." "But, Tom, we were so good together." "We could still have that. We were good together when you thought you could change me. That's not the same thing." Maya couldn't hear Jennifer's response, but the conversation continued for several more minutes. When the expensive car finally drove away, Maya found herself oddly shaken by the encounter. That evening, as they sat on the porch sharing dinner, an uncomfortable silence hung in the air. Finally, Tom spoke. "I want you both to know that Jennifer's visit changes nothing. She's part of my past, not my future." Sarah nodded, but Maya remained quiet. Seeing Jennifer had stirred up old insecurities she thought she had left behind. What if Tom decided he wanted that sophisticated city life after all? What if Maya was just a temporary distraction while he figured out what he really wanted? Over the next few days, Maya found herself watching Tom carefully for signs that Jennifer's visit had affected him. But his behavior remained unchanged. He was still patient with her learning curve, still genuinely pleased by her progress, still the same steady, reliable presence he had been since her arrival. It was during the weekend farmers market that Maya had her breakthrough moment. Sarah had asked her to help at the vegetable stand, and Maya had reluctantly agreed, worried that she wouldn't know how to talk to customers or that she would somehow embarrass Sarah. But, as the morning progressed, Maya found herself enjoying the interactions. She discovered she had a natural ability to describe the vegetables in ways that made people want to buy them, sharing stories about how they were grown and suggesting recipe ideas. "You're a natural at this," an elderly customer told her after Maya had helped her select the perfect ingredients for a garden salad. "You really know your produce." Maya glowed with pride. A month ago, she couldn't have imagined feeling confident enough to give advice to anyone about anything. Now, she was successfully representing the ranch at market, contributing to its success in a real and meaningful way. When they returned to the ranch that afternoon, Tom was waiting with an unusual expression on his face. "Maya, can I talk to you privately for a minute?" Her stomach dropped. This was it. He was going to tell her that Jennifer's visit had made him realize he needed to make changes, that her services were no longer needed. They walked toward the corral where several horses were grazing peacefully. Tom leaned against the fence and looked out at the animals for a long moment before speaking. "I want you to know something," he said finally. "When I hired you, I thought I was doing you a favor. Giving someone down on their luck a chance to get back on their feet." Maya's heart sank further. "But I was wrong," Tom continued. "You weren't the one who needed help, I was. This place has been missing something for years, and I couldn't figure out what it was until you arrived." Maya looked at him in confusion. "Life," he said simply. "Joy in the work, excitement about possibilities, someone who sees the potential in everything around here instead of just the problems. You've brought something back to this ranch that I had forgotten existed." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Tom, let me finish," he said gently. "Jennifer's visit reminded me of something important. She was always looking at this place and seeing what was wrong with it, what needed to be changed or improved. You look at it and see what's wonderful about it. That makes all the difference in the world." He turned to face her directly, and Maya was surprised by the intensity in his expression. "I don't want you to think of this as a temporary job anymore, Maya. I want you to think of it as home, if you want it to be. You belong here in a way that feels right and natural, and I hope you'll stay." The words hit Maya like a physical force. Belong. When was the last time she had truly felt like she belonged anywhere? I want to stay, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I love it here. I love the work, the animals, the life we've built. I've never felt so much like myself as I have these past few weeks. Tom smiled, and Maya realized with a start that what she saw in his expression wasn't just fondness or approval. There was something deeper there, something that made her heart race and her palms sweat. There's something else I want to tell you, he said, taking a step closer. But I don't want to complicate things if you're not ready to hear it. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Could he possibly be feeling the same confusing mix of emotions that she had been struggling with? I'm ready, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if that was true. Tom reached out and gently took her dirt-stained hands in his clean ones. You're not just valuable to this ranch, Maya. You're valuable to me. More valuable than I expected, and in ways I didn't see coming. Maya looked down at their joined hands, hardly able to believe this was happening. Tom, this incredible man who had saved her life without even knowing it, was telling her that she mattered to him. I don't understand, she said honestly. I'm not sophisticated like Jennifer. I don't have a career or education or any of the things that matter. Tom lifted her chin so she was looking into his eyes. Those things don't matter to me. What matters is kindness, honesty, willingness to work hard, and the ability to find joy in simple things. You have all of that in abundance. As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Maya finally allowed herself to believe something she had never thought possible. She was exactly where she belonged, with someone who saw her worth even when she couldn't see it herself. The broken, defeated woman who had stepped off a bus just weeks ago was gone forever, replaced by someone stronger, more confident, and, finally, ready to accept that she had never been worthless at all. 6 months after arriving at Sunshine Valley Ranch, Maya stood in the main house kitchen, her hands covered in flour as she prepared her famous apple cinnamon muffins for the weekend farmers market. The recipe had been her grandmother's, buried in memory until Sarah had encouraged her to try baking again. Now, customers specifically asked for Maya's muffins, and she had become a valued member of the market community. The transformation in her life still amazed her sometimes. The scared, broken woman who had stepped off the bus seemed like a character from someone else's story. Maya now moved through her days with confidence and purpose, her laughter coming easily and her smile genuine. Tom appeared in the doorway, his hair still damp from his morning shower. The sight of him still made her heart skip a beat, though their relationship had developed slowly and carefully over the months. They had shared their first kiss during a summer thunderstorm, taking shelter in the barn while rain drummed on the roof. Since then, their connection had deepened into something beautiful and steady, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. Smells incredible in here, he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind and pressing a kiss to her neck. Don't distract me, Maya laughed, leaning back against his chest. I need to get these finished before we leave for market. I love watching you work, Tom murmured. You attack everything with such focus and determination. Remember when you were afraid to touch Thunder? Maya smiled at the memory. Thunder had become her special companion, responding to her gentle touch and patient manner. She had discovered a natural gift for working with the more challenging horses, the ones who needed extra time and understanding to trust humans again. Speaking of Thunder, Tom said, I have something to show you after market today. What kind of something? You'll see. It's a surprise. Maya had learned to love Tom's surprises. He had an uncanny ability to know exactly what would make her happy, a wildflower bouquet picked during morning chores, a new book about horse training, or simply his undivided attention during sunset conversations on the porch. The farmer's market was bustling when they arrived. Maya's booth had grown from just helping Sarah with vegetables to featuring her own baked goods, homemade jams from the ranch's fruit trees, and small crafts she had learned to make during quiet winter evenings. She had discovered that her hands, once idle and uncertain, were skilled at creating beautiful things. Maya called Mrs. Henderson, one of her regular customers. Please tell me you brought those chocolate chip cookies. My grandchildren have been asking for them all week. Of course, Maya replied, packing up a dozen cookies in a cheerful paper bag. And I included some of the new oatmeal ones for you to try. As Mrs. Henderson walked away with her purchases, Maya felt the familiar warm glow of satisfaction that came from making others happy. It was such a simple thing, but it filled her with a sense of purpose she had never experienced in her old life. Tom appeared at her elbow during a lull in customers. "I just talked to Jake Morrison," he said. "He's interested in having you train his new mare. Apparently, word has gotten around about your way with difficult horses." Maya felt a flutter of pride mixed with nervousness. Jake Morrison owned the largest ranch in the county, and his recommendation could lead to more training opportunities. It was beyond anything she had imagined when she first arrived at the ranch. "Do you think I'm ready for that?" she asked. "I know you are," Tom said confidently. "But, more importantly, you know you are. That's what's changed, Maya. You've learned to trust yourself." As the day wound down and they packed up the remaining goods, Maya reflected on Tom's words. He was right, the biggest change in her life wasn't just the new skills or the confidence in her abilities. It was the gradual shift from constantly seeking approval from others to trusting her own judgment and instincts. The drive home took them through familiar countryside that Maya now thought of as truly home. Every hill, every fence line, every stand of trees held memories and meaning. This was her place in the world, the first place she had ever felt like she truly belonged. "Close your eyes," Tom said as they turned into the ranch driveway. "Tom, what are you up to?" "Trust me." Maya closed her eyes as the truck came to a stop. Tom guided her carefully from the vehicle, his hand steady on her arm as they walked across uneven ground. "Okay," he said finally. "You can look." Maya opened her eyes and gasped. Before her stood a beautiful wooden sign with Mitchell and Jenkins Horse Training carved in elegant script. Below it, in smaller letters, it read Specialists in Rehabilitation and Gentle Methods. "Tom," she whispered, hardly able to believe what she was seeing. "What is this?" "It's your business," he said, his voice full of quiet pride. "Our business, if you want it to be. I've been watching how you work with the horses, how you can reach the ones that everyone else has given up on. You have a gift, Maya, and it's time the world knew it." Maya stared at the sign, emotions overwhelming her. Jenkins. He had included her name, treating her as an equal partner rather than just hired help. It was more than a business opportunity, it was recognition of her worth, her contributions, her place in this life they were building together. "I talked to the county about licensing requirements," Tom continued. "Sarah helped me design the sign, and Jake Morrison has already committed to sending us 3 horses for rehabilitation training. This is real, Maya. You've earned this." Tears streamed down Maya's face, but for once they were tears of joy rather than pain. She thought of the broken woman who had arrived here with nothing but 2 suitcases and a heart full of despair. That woman would never have believed this moment was possible. "I don't know what to say," she managed. "Say you'll do it. Say you'll build this with me." Maya threw her arms around Tom's neck, holding him tight as happiness bubbled up from somewhere deep inside her chest. "Yes," she laughed through her tears. "Yes, of course, yes." That evening, as they sat on the porch with Sarah celebrating over a dinner of grilled steaks and garden vegetables, Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and saw her sister Rebecca's name. "I should take this," she said apologetically, stepping inside for privacy. "Maya." Rebecca's voice was excited. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Mom told me about your ranch job, and I have to say, I'm impressed. You sound different, happier." Maya smiled. "I am happier. Really, genuinely happy for the first time in years. I'm calling because David and I want to come visit. We're planning a family trip to Colorado next month, and we'd love to see this ranch life you've fallen into. Mom and Dad might even come if you're okay with that." The old Maya would have panicked at the thought of her successful siblings seeing her simple ranch life, worried that they would judge her choices or find her wanting. But the new Maya felt only excitement at the prospect of sharing her world with them. "I'd love to have you visit," she said sincerely. You can meet Tom and Sarah, see the horses, try some of my famous apple muffins. I think you'll understand why I love it here. I can already hear it in your voice, Rebecca said warmly. You sound like yourself again, like the sister I remember from when we were kids. I'm proud of you, Maya. Really proud. After they hung up, Maya sat quietly for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of change in her life. Her family wanted to visit her, to see what she had built. They were proud of her. 6 months ago, such a conversation would have been impossible to imagine. She returned to the porch where Tom and Sarah were discussing plans for expanding the vegetable garden. The easy camaraderie, the shared dreams and goals, the sense of working together towards something meaningful, it all felt natural and right in a way that nothing in her previous life ever had. Later that night, as Maya and Tom walked hand in hand through the pastures under a canopy of stars, she marveled at the quiet contentment that had replaced the constant anxiety she once carried. Do you ever regret it? Tom asked suddenly. Leaving your old life behind? Maya considered the question seriously. I regret wasting so many years believing I wasn't good enough, she said finally. But I don't regret a single choice that led me here. Even the bad relationships, the failed jobs, the eviction notice, they all brought me to that bus station where I decided to take a chance on something unknown. They paused by the fence where Thunder and several other horses were grazing peacefully in the moonlight. Thunder lifted his head at Maya's approach, nickering softly in greeting. He knew before I did, Maya said, stroking the horse's neck. He knew I belonged here. Tom pulled her closer, and Maya rested her head against his shoulder. The simple gesture spoke of home, of safety, of being valued exactly as she was. Maya, Tom said quietly, I love you. The words hung in the air between them, simple and profound. Maya had heard those words before from other men, but they had always come with conditions: love if she changed, love if she tried harder, love if she became someone else. Tom's love was different. It was based on who she actually was, not who she might become. It was love for the woman who could gentle a frightened horse, who could make customers smile at the farmer's market, who could find joy in physical work and simple pleasures. I love you too, Maya replied, and the words felt like a promise, a commitment to this new life they were building together. As they walked back toward the house, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The pain, the self-doubt, the years of believing she was worthless, all of it had been necessary to appreciate the gift of genuine love and belonging when it finally came. She was no longer the broken woman who had believed herself worthless. She was Maya Jenkins, horse trainer, baker, farmer, partner, and beloved. She was exactly who she was meant to be, in exactly the place where she belonged. The ranch slept peacefully around them, and Maya knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to grow and learn and contribute. She was ready for whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that she had found her home and her purpose. Most importantly, she had found herself, not the person others expected her to be, but the person she truly was underneath all the doubt and fear. And that person, she now knew with absolute certainty, was more than enough. As Tom took her hand and smiled, Maya smiled back, finally, and completely believing in her own worth. The woman who had once felt worthless had discovered the truth that had been inside her all along: she was valuable, capable, deserving of love, and exactly where she belonged. The stars overhead seemed to shine more brightly, as if celebrating this moment of perfect contentment and the beautiful future stretching out before them like an endless horizon of possibility.